doing this morning?
Hello. Fine. How are you, Ernest?
Oh man, ready to have another great show. We kind of had a little bit of a quiet weekend with LSU on a bye, with Saints on a bye, but for the most part, it was a pretty interesting weekend. So hey, let's get at it, and we'll see y'all back in here in just a little bit. All right.
Welcome to Breakfast with Champion at Port City Cafe in Biloxi. I'm Jeff Marion.
And I'm Randy Kennedy from iHeartRadio.
And this weekend, as the high school playoff scenarios start to shape up, what are you seeing, Randy?
Well, this is the key week, obviously the last week of the regular season. We're going to talk in just a little bit with Catlin French, the head coach at Biloxi. You know, they're in the playoffs, but still some negotiating to do in terms of the seeding and who you might play in the first round. So we'll talk a lot about that. And for all the teams, you know, you're either getting ready for the playoffs, which is important, or this is your finale for a lot of these guys, the last game they'll ever play if you didn't make the playoffs. So definitely one of the biggest weeks of the year for high school football on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, with 1 week left, we saw some teams solidify their spots. And are there any that you see that need to be concerned about?
Well, I mean, there are two things here. One is you're trying to make the playoffs. For the most part, we know who's going to be in the playoffs, but there's always that jockeying for a position in terms of who you're going to play and if maybe you can get a home game.
Well, when we return, we're going to meet with Catlin French from the Biloxi Indians. We'll also be talking about some college football. Next week we have a big game, Saints football and sports betting when we come back with Breakfast with Champion.
Vic Dion at Champion. Shopping online for a vehicle drives me crazy. We have a website, but in order to stay competitive, we have to put every discount available, which most people don't qualify for. You own a horse, you get $500. You got a hamster, you get another $1,000. It's that ridiculous, and I don't like it. Come on over to Champion. Let's visit the websites together. All of them. At Champion, you're still going to find the best price on the coast. Check us out during Ram Power Days at Champion.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champion. I'm Jeff Marion.
And I'm Randy Kennedy with iHeartRadio, and with us right now, Catlin French, who's the head coach of the Biloxi Indians. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
So it doesn't get any much bigger. Gulfport and Biloxi this week. That's kind of what you guys work for all year, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we work for a lot of things. We want to, have a good season, make the playoffs, things like that. But we recognize that Gulfport's a big rival for us, and definitely a big rival for everybody around this town. And our kids get psyched about the game, so we're excited about it.
So not just the rivalry, but also in 6A Region 4, it's a big game as well. Where are you guys at in terms of, I know you're in the playoffs, but where are you at? Give us the scenarios here.
I think right now we're sitting in 4, but there's a chance, an outside chance we could be the 3 seed, depending on the Ocean Springs game, and obviously we have to win the Gulfport game to get that. We know we're in. That's the biggest thing, and where we shake up at 3 or 4, we really don't care. We're just glad to be there, and we hope to make some noise when we get there.
Let's talk about the program. So you've gone from 3 wins 2 years ago, 4 wins last year, and now this year 8-2.
Right.
An amazing turnaround, just a progression. What do you attribute that to?
Well, definitely, one, we got good players. We got a great coaching staff, and we've worked hard in the off season. Our guys have really bought into what we're trying to do. We know we're a very capable program. We got good players in our school. We just had to make sure we get our players to play in football, and we've done that. Our guys have worked hard in the off season, the summer, and they're believing. The biggest thing, you got to scratch out a few wins and get that belief going. We did that early, and so.
Particularly impressive. You guys have overcome some major injuries this year, right?
Yeah, we have.
Talk to me about the guys who have filled in there for you.
Yeah, so we started out with, our quarterback went down week 4. Tristan Pearson broke his collarbone, and Chad O'Neill, who was hurt the first 4 weeks of the year, came in and took over that role at quarterback. He's done a great job. He had some growing pains early, but now he's really starting to figure this thing out, and he's doing real well. We lost arguably our best player on the team, Anthony Krause, who was a linebacker, running back. We lost him almost the same week we lost Tristan, and he's been down. So it was a transition period trying to figure out how to replace those guys early, but we did, and our team is playing really well. I think we're playing our best football here at the latter end of the season.
It helps when you have a really veteran offensive line, right?
Absolutely.
You guys are strong there.
We have 5 seniors on the offensive line. One is Ryan Spires. He's probably the bigger name when it comes to our offensive line. He's a Georgia Tech commit, but our offensive line, they've played a lot of games together. Logan Leach, Tony Lee, Markel Smith and those guys. They played a lot of games together, and they're very experienced up front, and they know the system, and they're really moving people this year. So,
when you look at Gulfport, that's a team that has really been dominant here on the coast.
Right.
What do you see with them in 2019?
Well, Gulfport they're just good from top to bottom. They don't really have any weak spots and things like that. So they're well coached. They got a lot of good players, but they're doing what Gulfport's done in the past here. But we feel like we have a really good chance against them this year. Both of us are 8-2. I know our kids are getting tired of getting beat by them, and so we're real psyched about the game and real excited about what's going to happen.
At home and senior night too,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Big night in Biloxi.
Yes, sir. Big night.
I know you don't want to look past this big rivalry game, but you are in the playoffs.
Right.
Good chance the first round you might go to Petal. Is that right?
We're thinking going to Petal. Yep.
What have you already looked at those guys, or do you just try to get through the regular season?
Well, we've kind of looked at the common opponents and things like that, and just kind of saw their record and trying to see. We don't really know much about them. I don't have a whole lot of film on them. All I can go by is the stats and things like that. But yeah, we've obviously took an early look at them and things like that. But obviously we want to make sure we get everything ready and give ourselves the best chance we can to beat Gulfport first. And but yeah, Petal's definitely in the back of our minds.
Is there one key to beating Gulfport this week?
Yeah, I think the biggest key we have to do is make sure we establish the run. We've done that early in the past few games, and that's been the key to our success and the recent games we've won. So if we can establish the run, our defense has played great the past few weeks as well, and played great all year. So I think if we get our defense going and get our run game going, we'll have a really good chance.
Well, it's already been a hugely successful year for Biloxi. First winning season since 2011, is that right?
That's right.
So a huge success there already. You guys
Right.
got a chance to really make some noise here in the finale, and then you're for sure going to be in the playoffs. So wish you good luck coming up this week and throughout the playoffs.
Thank you.
There you go.
Congratulations on your success, Coach.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll be discussing college football. We have a big game to talk about, don't we, Randy?
We have teased it a couple of weeks in a row. I think we have, yes.
And we'll see what's happening in the NFL and talk about Russell Shank, with the director of Hard Rock Casino Sportsbook, will be joining us to talk about sports betting here on the Gulf Coast when we come back.
Business has one speed, fast, and with new 1 gig internet from Sparklight Business, you can put yours on the fast track to success. We're delivering on our promise to connect you to more opportunities, more speeds, and more flexible plans. With speeds up to 1 gig, you can download a 2-hour presentation in 8 seconds. Collaborate across the country in real time. Access cloud-based applications instantly and more. Because with new speeds come new possibilities. Call now to find the right speed for your business with Sparklight Business.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champion from the Port City Cafe in Biloxi.
Hey. That looks
Looking
good.
good.
Thank you
Looking
so
good,
much
Katie.
for that.
Looking good.
That looks beautiful.
Pancakes.
Not much changes in the rankings this weekend. However, there was an upset, the Florida-Georgia game, Randy.
I don't know if I'd call it an upset. I mean, I think, certainly preseason, everybody thought Georgia was the better team, and Georgia went off as a little bit of a favorite. But that was a key game. Florida came into that game with a chance, even though they had already lost to LSU. If they went out, they were going to be in the playoff. Of course, they lose this game to Georgia, and now Florida basically eliminated from any championship contention. I mean, mathematically, they could still win the SEC East and make the championship game, but basically that was the SEC East championship. And so Florida, Georgia, despite their one loss, still controls their own destiny. And I think one of the big storylines of the weekend was really out west, where you had Utah with a stirring victory and Oregon with a win at USC, and now both of those teams with one loss. It's now starting to look like maybe a team from out west may get one of those playoff spots, which I think it's probably good for college football because you get that part of the country involved, but maybe bad for the loser of the Alabama-LSU game this week makes it a little less likely that the loser could make it into the playoff. The winner, obviously, is still got a clear path to the national championship.
Well, you know, sometimes when you have a team like South Carolina upsetting Georgia, you kind of wonder how that's going to play out when they meet a team that's ranked ahead of them like Florida. And it seems like they were able to not let that affect them at all and maybe use it as motivation to go into that game on the neutral field.
You know, it's amazing. You mentioned Georgia loses South Carolina, which now means absolutely nothing. I mean, Georgia, if they win out, they're national champs. Period, end of statement. If they don't, you know, they don't make the playoffs. So that's where they are. They've kind of overcome that, kind of righted the ship a little bit, and Jake Fromm's starting to get a couple of playmakers now that he can count on to catch the ball, which they really didn't have early in the year, and certainly the day they played South Carolina did not have. So that, you know, that's all sort of the you know, the side items. With Alabama LSU, obviously the main course coming up for this week.
And he had one of his weapons return that was not with him earlier. So
yeah, Cager, the transfer from Miami, came back and really had the big touchdown catch and was a big factor in that game.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out is that, you know, all these teams, the Alabamas, the LSU, the Auburns, Georgias, they've got great defenses. But when you look at the quarterback position, that's where you start finding the weakness. Mm-hmm. And with Georgia, Fromm really stepped up. Florida, their quarterback, you know, he's a freshman. He'll get better, but the quarterback position is where it's really the weakness of those teams really show.
It's interesting you mentioned that because the other, you know, big game in the SEC where Ole Miss went to Auburn, and you know, Auburn's a 19-point favorite, and that game was decided on the last play of the game. Bo Nix, the freshman quarterback from Auburn, statistically had his best game of the year, 340 passing yards, but still playing like a freshman. And it looks like maybe Ole Miss has found their guy. John Rice Plumlee from right up the road in Hattiesburg has really started to play well. And even when they were having to try to come back late in the game, they didn't go to their passing quarterback, Matt Corral. They left in John Rice Plumlee, which kind of tells me they've decided this guy is not only the future for this year, but really the future of the program for Ole Miss at quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if he work on that throwing, more accuracy, that's the biggest thing. I mean, he scrambles, he's fast, he can get out the pocket. And, I mean, when they play LSU, I think it's going to be a tough game because that's just such a rivalry game, LSU Ole Miss.
Well, talking about a big game, we got one coming up this week, number 1 playing number 2. And how often has number 1 and number 2 been in the SEC?
Well, more than anywhere else, but it really is, you know, we've kind of been pointing to this for, you know, months now.
Season.
We've been talking about it for months. I mean, while LSU has been playing some pretty tough people, you know, playing Auburn and playing Florida and really had some tough games in there, Alabama, even since the preseason, it's been, okay, what can you do get ready for LSU? I mean, there was no chance they were going to lose to anybody leading up to now. And so, so really, for Alabama, I would say the Tide has done nothing good and nothing bad. All they've done is lead up to this game. Are they going to be good enough to beat LSU? Whereas on the LSU side, you know, they you know, Alabama's the big rivalry, but you had to worry about beating Auburn. You had to worry about beating Florida. You had to worry about the schedule up to this point. So for Alabama, we're going to find out now, is this, you know, like I thought in the preseason, have a chance to be an all-time great Alabama team, or is it going to be a disappointing Alabama team? We'll start finding out this weekend about Alabama.
Well, when you have a team like Alabama, that's the game that everybody gets. They're looking for that game on their schedule when it comes up. So they're getting everyone's best game, even the person that's the lowest ranked. So they've got that huge target on their back, and they still, you know, keep their position. It's theirs to lose, really.
It is.
Wouldn't you say?
You know, and when you start to break this game down, it's amazing. I know we'll talk about the odds a little bit later, but the total on this game is 65 points.
Yeah.
These two teams haven't scored 65 points in the last decade. I mean, it's amazing when you look at, you know, just the perception of this game and how it's changed with really one storyline, Joe Burrow's emergence as an outstanding quarterback at LSU. And of course Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama, so people think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But if it is, that's definitely going to buck the trend of this, you know, what has been a great rivalry.
Yeah, well, let's look at last year's game, 29-0. 29-0. Alabama wins 29-0 in Baton Rouge. And LSU had a great year last year. Problem with last year was we didn't have Joe Brady come over from the Saints that has instituted this offense that we're running now. Again, LSU run the ball first and second, throw it on third. Alabama loads up the box and dares them to throw the ball. And last year, they just didn't have that style of offense. This year is totally different. And this year, we've already played a Florida defense. We've already played an Auburn defense. So LSU has got tremendous tape on how to play against an Alabama-style defense. They've already done it 2 games with Florida and Auburn. And to me, I mean, I've watched Alabama. I think Auburn's defense is much better than Alabama's defense. And so, you know, from a standpoint, you know, I'm an LSU guy, of course, but I see LSU going in and taking care of business.
But 23 points they scored against Auburn, you don't think that's enough to beat Alabama?
Happy early birthday.
Oh,
Hey, it's your birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy
Thank
birthday,
y'all.
Curtis.
Thanks a lot.
Well,
23 points is not going to beat Alabama, though, right?
No,
I mean, how many
no.
they got to score to beat Alabama?
Oh, they'll need to score probably 30, at least 30 points. Well, let me see
would
what they
say
got.
so.
Y'all.
All right, let's see what you got.
Oh,
there you
boy.
go. I thought it was going to be Alabama, but it was not.
Something to wear on game day. Something to wear on game day on Saturday. LSU hoodie.
I was sure it was
Heck
going to say
yeah,
Roll Tide.
Heck yeah. Oh,
Well, Randy,
no.
real quick, what on both sides, on LSU and Alabama, what concern would you have with either team that you would say would be a key to this game? for
Well,
either side?
I think on the Alabama side is they have not been great against the run with those freshman linebackers, and LSU has proven that it's not just Joe Burrow's show. They've got a great running game. I think that would be my concern there. On the other side, LSU's defense has been okay, but it's not great at rushing the passer. And if you don't pressure Tua Tagovailoa, they're going to score every time. I mean, that is just a fact. He is so incredibly accurate. I'm assuming he's going to be healthy now, and maybe he's not 100%. But
He better be healthy.
But if he's ready to go, and if you don't pressure him, then you're going to have to score every time just to keep pace with him.
Yeah. Well, I know all the LSU fans. I mean, we won Tua on the field. So we don't want to hear anything about we won without Tua.
Well, when we come back at Breakfast with Champion, we'll be visiting with Russell Schenck, the director of the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel Sportsbook. We'll be talking about the Saints coming up, and also we'll be talking about sports betting here on the Gulf Coast when we come back with Breakfast with Champion.
It's Vic Dehan at Champion Chrysler Dodge Jeep. We have the sleek and fast Charger SXT right here at Champion for 19 and some change. U.S. News ranked it one of the best top 10 American-made vehicles on the road today. A sports car with comfort. Come and ask for stock number 39120. Some terms and conditions may apply. It's the Dodge Power Dollar Sale here at Champion. ChampionValue.com.
Champion!
This town is on the move, and we're moving forward with you, helping you grow your business and connect to more customers using today's ever-evolving advertising technologies. Now we're taking our commitment to you one step further, connecting people to one another, connecting your business to the world, connecting what's now to what's next. Sparklight Advertising. Go anywhere from here.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champion from the Port City Cafe in Biloxi. I'm Jeff Marion, and we're here with Russell Schenck from the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel Sportsbook.
Yes, sir. Glad to be back. Been off a few weeks. Glad to be here, ready to talk some NFL football.
Russell, did you see any? Were you surprised and shocked by the Patriots losing to Baltimore like that?
No, I wasn't shocked. The quarterback for the Ravens, Jackson. I mean, he's like a Michael Vick. I mean, he can run the ball, he can throw the ball, and he the New England's defense has not faced a quarterback like him all year long. They've played teams like the Jets, Miami. They've played weaker competition. And going up against the Ravens, I really thought the Ravens were going to put it on them, and they did. Had a great game.
We talked about it last week, how the Patriots have only had one team over 500 that they faced. We talked about how their defense is against a mobile quarterback. And another team that was kind of that got me was your Packers.
Yeah, I tell you, Green Bay, after coming off that big win against Kansas City, I think they went into San Diego looking ahead. I think they thought they were just going to walk right through a team that's 3-5 and just coming off that big win, and they laid an egg. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They just laid an egg. They did not look fired up. They didn't look on the same page offensively and defensively. They were just getting pushed off the ball. Every time San Diego ran the ball, it was 4 or 5 yards before Melvin Gordon would even get touched most of the time. So it was a very uninspired effort, but I think it was humbling. And Aaron Rodgers said it best in the post-conference. We needed this loss. We needed this to happen, to wake the team up.
Well, you remember when the Saints went to the Super Bowl, they were riding at 13-0. Dallas comes in and just ends their winning streak, and it looks like they're tumbling downhill. And they said the same thing. Yep. They said, we got some plans. This is part of the plan. What are some other things you saw this week? Were there any surprises in the NFL this weekend?
Well, you know, Cleveland went over to Denver, and Denver's starting a new quarterback. You know, Flacco's out with an injury. I don't think he'll get back on the field now. I mean, this guy looked tremendous. He controlled the offense. I mean, they ran the ball, they threw the ball. The defense, Denver's got a great defense. I mean, they just need the offense to do their part. And so, you know, after one game, you can't say Denver's back, but they looked a whole lot better than when Flacco's, you know, has been playing in there.
Yeah, no matter how you play, if you can't score points, you can't win games,
right,
correct?
That's right.
Well, it seems like with a lot of teams being out that are, you know, the Saints were out,
Yeah.
that kind of blew up my weekend.
Right. Yeah, mine too. Mine too.
I tell you, and they're coming back next week against Atlanta at home, and the spread is 12 points.
Wow.
Now, New Orleans this whole year has been able to cover the spread every week.
Yeah.
But 12 points against Atlanta, who
Division
always
rival.
plays them close. I mean, it doesn't matter how good either side is. They always play them tight. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm thinking you can never. I mean, like they're saying that the over/under is 51 points.
Right.
I don't know. It depends on which team shows up from Atlanta. Of course, they're playing in the Dome. It's going to be loud, but every now and then Matt Ryan has these flashes of greatness, and we don't know which team's going to show up. But with the way that the Saints are playing defense, and with the addition of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as that other hybrid safety cornerback, that front line is putting pressure on quarterbacks, and you've got the group in the backfield that are able to handle coverage. And, you know, Atlanta is known for their passing game, but how are they going to look against this Saints defense?
Well, I think that's going to be the big tell. I think the Saints, I think they cover again, honestly. I think 12 points, I think they're going to win by 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees is back. I feel confident with them.
Yeah, and I believe we get Kamara back too.
Yep.
So, you know, we're 100% back on offense.
Well, that leaves the San Francisco 49ers as the only undefeated team this week.
And there was one.
And they and they have a tough schedule coming up. And so they've only had one team that they've beaten over 500.
Right.
And we're going to see what they're going to be coming into the Dome soon. We're going to come back in just a minute and talk about the sportsbook and casino money lines. We're going to be talking about the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel Sportsbook Lounge and some of the money lines coming up with sports betting with Russell Shank when we return.
Hey folks, feeling like a bit of adventure? Well, we got it for you. The Jeep Cherokee Latitude Plus right here at Champion for 19 and some change. That's right, you heard it right. 19 and some change for a Cherokee Latitude. A JD Power 5-star rating. Come on in and ask for stock number 69059. Some terms and conditions may apply. It's time for Jeep Adventure Days here at Champion. ChampionValue.com.
Champion!
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champion at Port City Cafe in Biloxi. Good morning, Ernest and Russell with the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel Sportsbook.
Yes, sir. I've been out a few weeks. Glad to be back. I'm going to invite everybody to come down to the Hard Rock Casino Biloxi Sportsbook. We have a watch party every Saturday and Sunday. You don't want to miss out. We got the best lines, the best food, you name it. We got it at the Hard Rock Casino Biloxi. Come down and see me. Let's talk some lines.
Ernest?
Well, we got, of course, we got the Saints. Saints minus 12. I'm not sure exactly what their number is, but if you bet the Saints this year, you'd be at least 70% ahead on your bets. So the Saints have been a great team to bet on. Me personally, I see the Saints covering the 12 easily. Atlanta, they're coming in the Dome. The Saints has got, a top 5 defense. And Matty Ice, they definitely named it right because he's definitely on ice right now. So, hey, the defense, I think, is going to take care of it, and I'm looking forward to it.
The only undefeated team left in the NFL this week is the San Francisco 49ers, and they're hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Russell, what are your thoughts on that game? They're getting
I think
5.5.
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be much closer than what a lot of people would think. Mainly because being in the same division, they always play each other tough. Seattle's coming off a big win yesterday. Russell Wilson played lights out, man. That guy's so good. And I think they may be, after next week, may not have an undefeated team in the NFL. I think Cinderella Midnight's coming for San Francisco.
The Patriots got a wake-up call last night. I see the same thing happening in this game. Seattle, it's a rivalry game. That game is always close. So I think Seattle goes to San Francisco, takes care of business.
New England still, they have coming up, they got Philadelphia, they got Houston, they've got the Chiefs. They've got a heavy schedule coming up, and until last night, they didn't play a team over 500. So, except for one. That was Buffalo.
That's right.
So they got a tough schedule. We're going to see what they're really made of. Also, Dallas is hosting Minnesota this weekend. Dallas is only getting 3 points.
I like Minnesota to cover that. They're coming off of some tough luck. I mean, everybody in the North lost yesterday. Every team.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So I think they come in there and they put it on Dallas.
Well, I tell you what, we want to make sure we save enough time to talk about the big game this week, and I'm going to let you talk about that real quick, Ernest.
Alabama, LSU, roll Tide.
Yeah. And the way I look at this game, from a sports betting side, LSU's plus 7 points. The money line on it is plus 285. Me, as a sports bettor, I'm taking LSU to win the game outright. So when you do that, take the game to win outright, you're going to get that plus 285. So that means for every 100 that you bet, you're going to win $285. So if you bet $1,000, you're going to win $2,850.
Right.
So rather than taking the 7, if you want LSU to win, go with LSU, collect the big check, and hey, it's a great win.
That's right. And that's the difference for those that don't know, the difference between the money line and the point line. The point line, you're getting points on the thing, but it's an even kind of bet. But on the money line, if there's a plus in front of it, that's what you get paid if you bet $100, $280, 85.
Well, Russell, it was great to have you back on
Great to be
the
here.
show this week. And that's it for this week on Breakfast with Champion. Be sure to join us every Monday at 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Sparklight Channel 70.
And go Tigers. Let's win it. Let's win the money. Go Tigers.
Come to the Hard Rock.
Come to the Hard Rock and let's win some money.